era. The sticks and stones have told us the sticks and stones have broken away the bones. But in 2021, has shown that how words can hurt twice as much. The pandemic video, which falsely claimed of wearing masks, activates COVID-19, which has similar sources, that created a storm and misinformation and taken tremendous loss of life in America. Moreover, the Indian Constitution guarantees freedom of speech and expression to every citizen, but itself allows a significant restriction on it in relation to maintaining the sovereignty, integrity, public order, foreign relation, security, both inside the nation and around the world. We believe that there should be a balance between the liberty, individual liberty, and protection of society. For that, some sort of restrictions and interests of nation need to be granted. Various case laws ranging from Sullivan to Shreya Singhal, India adopted various measures of protections for free speech and want every other state to incorporate a similar methods which surround around the value for life and giving value for what others speech. We in India consider Article 19, it is freedom for speech and expression, and Article 21, right for our life, is a fundamental right which even cannot be suspended in the case of emergency. And the accused can directly approach the High Court under Section 22, 26, and Supreme Court under Article 232. With the level of importance, with some valuable restrictions, it should be applicable and acceptable throughout the nation. Thank you.
Yes, point of personal privilege. Go ahead, Delegate of the United States.
Chair, can the Delegate of India please repeat the point he had mentioned about USA, United States? A point he mentioned about United States. Yeah.
Sure. Delegate of India, can you please clarify the same?
Delegate of America, as even you know, during the COVID-19 period, pandemic video, which was viral on the Facebook platform, which stated wearing masks could activate COVID-19, and some similar sources or even spread in other countries, which showed that how like many lives were taken and tremendous loss of life, which was caused to America. Many reports have stated the similar things.
I hope it is clarified. Delegate of India, would you like to entertain questions?
Yes, sir.
All those who are wishing to ask questions to Delegate of India, please raise your hand. Delegate of United Arab Emirates, followed by United Kingdom, followed by Netherlands.
So can I start?
Yes, please go ahead.
The Delegate of India mentioned that India has adopted some measures to apply the freedom of speech. So can you please mention some of those measures and the changes which they brought?
Yes, Delegate. As mentioned that various measures through the decades, the evolution of this freedom of speech, our judiciary, our legislative, executive have come up with measures which revolve around the value for life and value for what people state and where they state and where should they state. We have come with measures, we have come with some acts and laws on what forum or which is legit to be spoken or which is not legit to be spoken. In considering the security of a nation, we could not allow something to be spoken in particular forum. But in consideration to the normal speech, we have no issues with that.
Point noted, Delegate. Sorry to interrupt the Delegate of United Arab Emirates. We have a point of order by Republic of Korea and point of parliamentary inquiry by United States. Please go ahead.
Sir, wasn't it decided that we would have only 2 questions on every moderated caucus speech?
Oh, apologies from my side.
No issues, sir. No issues.
Sincere apologies. The last delegate, point of order. Yes, United States of America. Please go ahead.
Honorable Chair, it was decided that after you ask delegates to raise their hand, then only delegates would raise their hand. But I could see delegates raise their hand before even you completed a sentence. And because of that, I've not been able to answer or ask questions at least 4 times in a row. This has been happening with me.
How is it a point of order on the executive board? What is point of order for procedural mistakes? Now, if the delegates themselves are not respecting each other and following the rules, how can we do that? No one is a kid over here. We have been mentioning the same thing again and again. US, you also have been prey to making this mistake yesterday. Some people are making this mistake today. So I don't think that's a point of order. It is in terms of respecting the rules, which this committee is not doing. The point of order raised by South Korea does stand and was valid. Over to you, Drishik.
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
I can see there's a plea to follow up by United Arab Emirates. Please go ahead.
Well, mentioning the thank you for mentioning the adopted measures which India got, but can you please tell the changes which were happened in the
Delegate, can you please repeat like the last wordings? Just
Yeah, we couldn't
break
hear
down.
the last few words.
Sorry for that. I just wanted to ask what changes did these adopted measures bring in the community?
We have come up with the changes related to the OTT platforms as a form of communication. It is the social media and websites, news websites. We have come with various rules and regulations about the media laws and all those details. Due to the paucity of time, I could not state each and every fact, but all those are details are available on the official website of the government. Moreover, I could answer this in detail from through a private chat.
I hope this satisfies your question, United Arab Emirates.
Yeah.
And further, we have the delegate of United Kingdom.
Point of information to the delegate of India. Hate speech across the country has caused violence, and this violence has resulted in the killings of many people. So, what is the country doing to prevent violence based on hate speech or speech?
Delegate as a representative nation, I have already stated that we are following some restrictions on what could be spoken, like on hate speech or on hate speech related to the particular caste, particular creed, particular great body is not allowed. It's not allowed as it could enter into violence. It is allowed in a private forum, but on a public forum, if it could enter into a violence, it could create a riot, it's not allowed, and specific actions have been taken against them. Moreover, we have like if it hurts anyone's sentiments, then we have fundamental rights related to it, under which they can directly approach the Supreme Court, that is our apex court and highest forum of judiciary, and the High Court for any remedy if they need.
Okay, thank you, delegate. Further, I would like to first of all apologize to the committee and especially to the delegate of Netherlands for not entertaining a question. It was a procedural error from my side. Sincere apologies. Further, we move towards the delegate of United Kingdom. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
In the Human Rights Act of 1998, everyone has the right to freedom of expression. But we believe that the exercise of this freedom comes with its duties, responsibilities, formalities, conditions, and restrictions, which are necessary in a democratic society to maintain peace and are in the interest, as I mentioned in my opening speech, of national security, territorial integrity, public safety, for prevention of disorder or crime, for the protection of health or morals, for the protection of the reputation or rights of others, for preventing the disclosure of information received in confidence, and for maintaining the authority and impartiality of the judiciary. Coming to the topic of freedom of press, we believe that a free press is fundamental to a democratic society, and at a national, regional, and local level, it is the public's watchdog, activist, and guardian, as well as educator, entertainer, and contemporary chronicler. We have imposed a number of acts over the years. The Sunshine Act of 1976 opens the doors of state and local run government meetings for the press to attend. The Freedom of Information Act of 1966 requires all federal and independent regulatory agencies to information available to any person who requests it. more access to subcommittee agendas, documents, and meeting reports at the local community level. Individuals also have the right to see documents in the Access to Personal Files Acts of 1987. We as Britain want to be a world leader when it comes to freedom of speech and expression and set standards for other countries. We are willing to get it right.
Noted delegate, would you like to entertain any questions?
Yeah, sure.
Delegates wishing to ask questions to the delegate of United Kingdom, please raise your hands. Delegate of USA followed by delegate of India.
Delegate, you have mentioned the certain restrictions in your speech. Well, there is a widespread criticism, including the new draft policing law, which is planned to curb the protest rights and freedom of speech and likely to impact a wider police search powers on people from ethnic minorities. And the United Kingdom government has acknowledged the disproportionate discriminatory impact, but pro- provides it to be indirect and justifiable. Can the delegate of United Kingdom answer how is this widespread criticism on the new draft policing law justifiable? And also there is a term serious disruption in this law. Can you please elaborate on the word serious disruption in this new law that curbs the protest rights and freedom of speech?
Based what you said as serious disruption, our country believes in ensuring the safety of our people. So serious disruption is caused in riots and protests, which can be very harmful, as we have seen before. There are thousands of cases, and so we want to make sure to and ensure the safety. Also, I would like to remind you that the bill is again under draft, and we are acknowledging it, and I'm sure our government is listening to the criticism. Thank you.
Need to follow up.
Granted.
Well, as you said that the government is looking into the matter, but as far as now, there has been mass confusion that arises to this word serious disruption in the draft of policing law, and which is seen as a threat to freedom of speech and expression in future. There is no clear statement provided by the government yet. So that's it, I think.
Delegate, is there a question?
When is the government of United Kingdom when is the government of United Kingdom going to provide a very effective statement on this confusion which is arising due to this particular word in the law?
When it comes to passing bills, it takes time, and we are definitely, thank you for bringing to our attention, but it will take time for us to respond as well. Thank you.
Further, we have the delegate of India, and I would like to request delegates to please turn on their cameras for a better interaction.
Delegate, in June, the prosecutors had decided not to prosecute the people who had participated in Black Lives Matter. But in Northern Ireland, around 72 people were fined for the same. Moreover, the PCSC bill, which has been come over, has drastically curtailed the right to freedom of peaceful assembly in the UK. So, how can you justify it?
I'm really sorry, but can the delegate of India repeat that question as their voice was breaking?
Sure, delegate. My question seems to be that in June, the prosecutors in the United Kingdom decided not to prosecute against a person who participated in the Black Lives Matter protest. But in Northern Ireland, around 72 people were fined for just infringing into the protest. Moreover, the PCAC bill, which has been is still in a draft, has drastically curtailed the right to freedom of peaceful assembly, and moreover, it is subject to a particular area and not to the whole nation. So, how can you justify these two aspects of the question?
Thank you for your question. We believe that no country is perfect, and we are willing to change. There are executive problems happening in our country, but the rights in we are looking forwards to bringing together competition and data and design and enforcement and execution of the laws that we say, and we are moving towards improving it. Thank you.
Need to follow up.
Grant.
Delegate, can you also show some light on there is a PCGT bill which is being implemented a few areas of the United Kingdom and it's not being implemented on the other few areas. So how it is justified to prosecute against particular section of people, not the other section of people?
I'm sorry, I don't have a response.
Well, further, we move towards the delegate of Russia. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yes, sir. The Russian government remains widely criticized for its record on human rights and freedom of speech and assembly. With the fourth inauguration of Vladimir Putin having taken place earlier this month, Kennan Institute fellow Marina Agalstova discusses whether progress is being made in protecting these rights for Russian citizens, or if we should anticipate even more restrictions. Russian constitution guarantees freedom of thought and expression and prohibits censorship. Russia is a party to several international treaties that impose legal obligations on governments to protect freedom and expression, freedom of expression and information. uh, International law permits some justifiable interference with or limitations on freedom of expression, but any such measures must be taken in pursuit of a recognized legitimate goal, have a proper basis in law, be justified as necessary and proportionate in a democratic society, and cannot be discriminatory. The Russian government should respect and uphold the right of people in Russia to freely receive and disseminate information and express diverging or critical views. Thank you.
Delegate, would you like to entertain questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you. And further, we have the delegate of the United States of America. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Delegates. Right to question, criticize, and openly express dissent is a very fundamental to the idea of a democracy. USA gives the right of freedom of speech in the First Amendment of the Constitution itself. How can citizens' right to freedom of speech and expression be empowered? How can the status of freedom of expression be safeguarded in authoritarian regimes? Well, honorable delegates, the answer is simple. We need to understand and accept that these basic humanitarian rights can only be achieved when we allow our citizens to raise their voice without the fear of threat to life and dignity. As to answer the first question and how it can be empowered, words stated by Navi Pillai, Human Rights Commissioner in UNHRC, is very well said. Internet should remain as open as possible and stress that any restriction that may be imposed should be on a very exceptional basis. And as for the second question regarding the safeguard in authoritarian regimes, I sincerely urge member states to fulfill the positive obligation to protect journalists and other media actors from any form of attack and to end impunity in compliance with the European Convention on Human Rights. And in light to these case law of human rights, I request all delegates to review all laws for a better flow of freedom and expression and speech in every country. Well, certain restrictions to freedom of speech can be validated if there is a threat to the security of the state or the country, or sovereignty and integrity of the country. And also, freedom of speech can be restricted to a certain level when there are target on the decency and morality or of a particular person without any lawful justification. Contempt of court is also another factor to restrict, as people have faith in justice, and contempting it is equivalent to jeopardize people's people's faith in rightful justice. Thank you, delegates.
Delegate, would you like to entertain questions?
Yes.
Delegates wishing to ask questions to the delegate of United States of America, please raise your hands. Again, delegate of Luxembourg, I would really recommend if you guys don't raise your hands before I complete my sentence. Republic of India followed by Republic of Korea.
Delegate, you stated a statement from a chairholder person from UNHRC, but the country United States is not a part of UNHRC. So how does it valid in the current conference?
United States is not a part of United Nations Human Rights Council. Delegate, point of personal privilege.
Yes, please go ahead.
Did the delegate of India just said that United States of America is not a part of United Nations Human Rights Council? Am I right?
Even I would like the delegate of India to repeat or rephrase his question.
Delegate, apologies for stating a wrong information. My question was related to like, if you accept that there should be restrictions on internet, but the amendment one which you stated about the freedom of right in United States talk about the liberal speech. So how both things justify each other?
Point of personal privilege again. Can the delegate please rephrase the question again?
Delegate of India, can you put up the question in the chat box?
Sure, sir.
Actually, there's some certain disturbance in your voice. There's a background. I think that's the sound of a breeze or air.
So I will type the question.
And Rishik, what happened?
There is some certain disturbance on the side of Republic of India, so even I can't hear the question properly. And the delegate of
Keep this question. Don't take the question. We can't. We have really less time left now.
Okay, sir. Apologies. I would like to move forward to delegate of Korea. Please go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Delegate, you mentioned you pleaded to the committee about how is it important to protect the rights of journalists, common citizens, and how there should be more proliferation of freedom of speech and expression. So, Delegate, I would just like to ask you this simple question. What, according to you, constitutes as the distinction between what are restrictions and what are reasonable restrictions?
Well, reasonable restrictions are the ones which should be implemented rather than restrictions, as the delegate of the United States would like to imply. And also reasonable restrictions are, again, delegate, which I had mentioned in my speech, are those that are threat to the security of this security of the state, which also infringes the sovereignty or integrity of the country, and also disrupts public order, decency or morality of the person, defames any person without lawful justification. Because if there is a lawful justification, truth holds an account. If the person is saying the truth and it's for a public good, then it cannot be considered defamation. Also, contempt of court is also one of the restrictions which I would like to imply, because people have faith in justice, and contempting it is equivalent to playing with people's faith in right to justice. That's what I want to mention. Thank you, Delegate.
Okay, so no plea to follow.
Well noted, delegate. Further, we have the delegate of Luxembourg. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Thank you. Honorable delegates and chiefs, freedom of speech and expression is broadly understood as the notion that every person freely expresses themselves It is not absolute and may be subjected to reasonable restrictions. The goal is to allow people to express contrary opinion. This structure promotes an exchange of ideas which then encourages the learning process for everyone. However, it may face challenges like freedom of speech can spread false information and thereby can incite violence against other people. The famous quote saying, "I don't agree with you, what you say, but I will defend to the death of your right to say it." It is a strong notion followed in our times, but it's also posing problems. Instead of believing that both sides must have a give and take to create an outcome, this definition becomes one where one side gets what they want, but the other gets least possible. Thus, freedom of speech and expression reduces the desire to compromise. Internet shutdown has been seen in many places for various reasons. It has always resulted in deprivation of information and thereby restricting freedom of speech and expression. The solutions could be government should be accountable, responsive, and transparent to the people. It helps to expose the corruption in various institutions. Rights relating to freedom of speech and expression must be granted through the constitution that makes it accessible to the citizens and binding on the part of the government to protect them. For example, in Luxembourg, freedom of speech and expression is granted by Article 24. Other provisions include religious practices, Article 19 and 20, right of assembly, Article 25, freedom to petition, Article 27. An independent, bold, and impartial judiciary is also equally important. It should be free from political influence. In context of fundamental rights, the very fact they are called fundamental rights is because they are very fundamental to human beings. However, restrictions can be imposed if individuals' welfare is contradictory to social welfare. Thank you.
Delegate of United States of America.
Can the delegate of Luxembourg repeat the initial statements made by them regarding the false information part?
Sure. So, Delegate of Luxembourg mentioned that freedom of speech can spread false information and thereby incite violence against other people.
I hope it was clear.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Would you like to entertain questions?
Yes.
Delegates wishing to ask questions to the delegate of Luxembourg, please raise your hands. United States of America.
Well, delegate, as you mentioned, the freedom of speech can spread false information and incite violence. Well, does Luxembourg have any laws that that can go that investigates if the information is false or not? Do they take efforts to uh, to to understand if the information is false or real information? Or are there any laws which are made to distinguish between them?
Thank you, Delegate of USA, for asking that question. I am very proud to announce that Luxembourg is a very peaceful country and it has not witnessed as such misinformations leading to large-scale destructions on large scale, and it has been peaceful. The very fact that Luxembourg has been awarded 97 out of 100 in the Freedom Report, and also the very fact that the judicial, 1 minute, I'll just tell you, the very fact that uh, the committee, the European Committee, when it made a surprise visit to Luxembourg, it found that there are very less, not even very less, the prisoners, they reported no cases of custodial violence, and also uh, the 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 European Court of Justice, it's in Luxembourg and is the highest court that deals with European Union laws. If Luxembourg was not a peaceful country, then European Union would not have had its Court of Justice in Luxembourg. So because Luxembourg is a peaceful country and it has not had large-scale massive violence due to false use of misinformation, that is why we don't have laws as such. Thank you.
Need to follow.
I think the answer was satisfactory, not granted. Delegate of France, you have the floor for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Delegate of France, are you here? I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sorry I wasn't able to unmute.
Yes, please go ahead.
Honorable Chair, the delegate of France would like to focus on censorship as a challenge. Censorship has often been considered as a bad word, yet it has been accepted in the most liberal societies as a necessity for a smooth social life. The biggest challenge for freedom of speech is when something is considered undesirable on moral, religious, or political grounds. In many countries, obscenity. In my country, restrictions on this count are many more. Yet, for political or other temporary reasons, even books like The Diary of Anne Frank or Shakespeare's plays have been censored some time or the other. Having learned our lessons, like the restrictions in literary and artistic performance, are minimum. Because we are in EU along with many other countries, having free access to our country, new problems crop up every day. Further, internet and social media, open to all people, require some control for which we had to pass French social media law, which requires that social media sites operating in France be required to remove offending content within 24 hours of notification or face an initial fine up to 1.25 million euros. We are aware that these restrictions need to be judiciously used, otherwise, that would be a handicap to the freedom of writers and journalists in expressing their views. But we keep in mind that we should never forget the principles laid down in Declaration of Independence 1776, the Bill of Rights 1789-91, and the French Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen 1789. Thank you.
Point noted, delegate. Would you like to entertain questions?
No.
Thank you. Further, we move on. We have the delegate of Somalia. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yes, please wait a minute. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon, my fellow delegate. Today I would like to elaborate as our topic is challenges and strategies for freedom of speech and expression. Today I would like to elaborate one of these challenges, which is censorship of media. In a lot of democratic countries, there are various media houses who are puppets of the government. These media houses report only one side of the coin and keeps the people deprived from the truth. However, there are some media houses who are not funded by the government and hence follows the path of truth, which bothers the government. So it starts censoring their reports under some vague reasons. This causes loss to the media houses, and they eventually close down. So to protect the freedom of speech and expression of these media houses, the public should support them as per their strength. Public should boycott all the media houses which supports the government, uh, even though the government has committed a mistake. In Somalia, the federal constitution guarantees media houses freedom of speech and expression for media houses as well as individuals and for each and every tribe. Thank you.
Points noted, delegate. Would you like to entertain questions?
Yes, I would like to.
Delegates wishing to ask questions to delegate of Somalia, please raise your hands. Republic of India.
Delegate, there are many reports regarding the killing of journalists and threats harassment to them, an arbitrary arrest of them, just to silence them of what all they are stating. There's a few instances of the journalists like Ahmed Botan, Jamal Adan, Adibs Muhammad, and various others. How you justify your freedom of speech in your country?
I know all of these arbitrary killings. We are taking necessary actions against them, and who were involved in those killings, we have already imprisoned them.
You weren't clearly audible, delegate. Can you please re-answer?
Okay, I know. Hello, am I audible now?
Yes, speak a bit louder.
Yes, I know about these arbitrary killings. and Somalia is taking necessary actions against them. And we are and the people who were involved in these killings are already in prison.
Sir, please to follow up.
Granted.
Delegate, if necessary actions are being taken, but such incidents are repeated every few months or few weeks of them. Moreover, if your police officers, if your security staff, if the law is not being able to control it, then how Somalia justify that they are doing their best to overcome the situation?
See, we are a developing nation, and there are a lot of problems in our country. There is civil obedience, and civil war is also going. So we are trying the best. The country is giving its best to reduce all these arbitrary killings and to promote freedom of speech and expression in the country.
Okay, delegate, thank you. And again, I would like to request to everyone, please raise your hands when I am finished with talking. Like, it doesn't really go well here. Please consider this. Further, we have the delegate of Brazil. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Delegate of Netherlands, do you have a POI or a point of order?
I wanted to ask a question to the delegate of Mali.
Well, at that point of time, you had raised your hands while I was speaking. So please take that into consideration. Delegate of Brazil, you have the floor for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Delegate of Brazil, are you here? Delegate of Brazil.
Yes, sir. Sorry, there was a technical issue.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So good afternoon again to everyone present here. Freedom of speech refers to the factor that everyone is accorded the freedom to freely express their opinions and ideas openly without facing any form of intimidations and risks from the society. Article 5 of the Constitution of Brazil encodes freedom of speech as a constitutional right. The article was approved along with the Constitution of Brazil in 1988. For example, role of journalists, reporters, and bloggers perform society's watchdog function by monitoring the government and serving the public interest, covering often sensitive or controversial topics such as female genital mutilation or genocide. The media has revealed information that governments have tried to suppress to avoid conflict. Most non-democratic societies employ state-run news organizations to promote the propaganda critical to maintaining an existing political power base, expose corruption, and disseminate balanced and impartial information to the public, essential to reporting human right abuses. Custody. Okay. So, according to me, freedom of speech restrictions should not be there because freedom means we are free to do anything, and freedom of speech is must in judicial matters to open up everything that has involved in the case. So that's what I had. Thanks.
Thanks, noted delegate. Would you like to entertain questions?
Yes, sure.
Delegates wishing to ask questions to the delegate of Brazil, please raise your hands. It seems there are none. We move forward to the next speaker, that is the delegate of United Arab Emirates.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for letting me speak. Freedom of speech lies at the core of democracy. Free speech creates an environment for people to freely discuss their ideas and develop them with input of others. Without it, our country would almost undoubtedly be without freedom we treasure so much. When a totalitarian ruler is trying to take power, one of the first things they limit is the freedom of speech of the people or individuals. This goes on to show that freedom of speech is the cornerstone of our entire governmental system and constitution. Freedom of speech is an important right because a person's voice sometimes is all that they have. To take that away, a person's thoughts and opinions is to diminish their values and strip their life away. Today, I am going to tell you some challenges we have to face while expressing the freedom of speech, as well as some strategies to improve and spread the freedom of speech. Some challenges which we are currently facing are that freedom of speech is limited, most notably as it pertains the violation of moral values and the transmission of messages that incite hatred, violence, for example, like racism, discrimination, etc. Access to information is an important aspect of the right individual to the free exchange of ideas and information. Some proactive tips to promote free speech are educate people and individuals, articulate the different values to people, support the speeches which other individuals give to each other, support faculty, speak out. Whatever your thoughts are, you must always speak them out. Facilitate dialogues, listen, and productive engagement. Thank you.
Points noted, delegate. Would you like to entertain questions?
No, thank you.
Further, we have the delegate of Republic of Korea. Sir, you have the floor for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, many of the delegates who have given their speeches. I would like to, rather than getting into facts and opinions, I would just like to make my speech in a more explanatory manner. Honorable Chair, since we are discussing the challenge to freedom of speech and expression, I would just like to mention that there are various types of freedoms, there are various types through which we can exercise our freedom of speech and expression. I have categorized it into 4 types. The first one being stating our opinion plainly, that is expressing our views and opinion in a plain manner. The second one being being support and criticism, whether you want to support somebody or whether you want to criticize somebody. The third one being criticism, which is through humor or satire. That is the third part. And the fourth one being an agitated expression, which is through protests, sloganeering, etc. There's a fifth part as well. And the fifth part, which is the last form or the most extreme form of expression, which is giving hate speeches. Now, the hate speeches can become more extreme when they indulge into violent protest, violent sloganeering, etc. Abuse is another example of hate speech. Honorable Chair, I would like to point out that here comes a distinction between what should be or could be classified as restrictions and reasonable restrictions. The first two come under, which is the plain opinion and criticism through humor or satire, or some parts of agitated expression. If those 2 or 3 parts are, if there are restrictions put up on those parts, then they could come under the ambit of restrictions which are unreasonable. And the last part, which is giving hate speech, if restrictions are put upon them, then it could be categorized as reasonable restrictions. Honorable Chair, I would like to point out that our neighbor North Korea itself, unfortunately, stands at the last in the table in the index of the global press freedom index due to their authoritarian regimes, due to their arbitrary regime in the country. Unfortunately, many such restrictions are imposed upon the people of North Korea. But also, I would like to, at the same time, I would like to point out that this situation or scenario is not just due to the arbitrary regime present in the country. We have observed a trend wherein various democracies, even though they are constituted as some of the largest democracies, even those democracies fall in the later stages of the global press freedom index. Hence, this is not just about being in an authoritarian regime or democratic regime, but the basic values or fundamental rights could only be solved through morality and not by passing legislations or making appeals to other countries for passing legislations and laws, creating laws. Thank you.
Points well noted, delegate. Would you like to entertain questions?
Yes, sir.
Delegates wishing to ask questions to the delegate of Republic of Korea, please raise your hands. Netherlands, followed by a delegate of India.
I would like to ask the delegate of South Korea that the South Korean government asserts that it has the legal right to control the internet's content within their territory and that the censorship rules do not infringe on their citizens' right to free speech. So how would you justify that?
Ma'am, there is nothing to justify in that. This is one part of reasonable restrictions. There is no doubt this is a trend which is observed since the past few years due to the since the uprising of the internet in the global scenario, that we have observed that a lot of hate speech and lot of unreasonable opinions in an unreasonable format are expressed on the internet. Hence, it is absolutely necessary to control the mode of what is shared on the internet, and to remove the unreasonable part of it. The country of South Korea does not appreciate or does not promote any such kind of restrictions which infringes the fundamental rights of the citizens, which is expressing their opinions in different forms of leniency. But of course, if there are some opinions which are expressed or some content which is shared which is does not fall in line with what can be compared to be as human decency, humanitarian decency, then of course those contents need to be taken down. To conclude my answer, I would like to point out that not just South Korea, but various countries all over the globe, even various organizations made by UN or the European Union, of which Netherlands is part of, have passed such restrictions and regulations to control this unreasonable spread of unreasonable content of social media on the internet. Thank you.
Further, we have the delegate of India. Please.
Delegate of South Korea in 2020, around 5 lakh information leaflets from South Korea went to North Korea via balloon, and then the North Korean government requested South Korean government to have a law where they restrict the freedom of in which there is a freedom of expression on how they spoke upon North Korea, and the similar law have been brought up by the South Korean regime. So how it justify your stake on freedom of expression?
That's a good question, delegate. Since I interpret your question as being how should a particular country put reasonable restrictions upon their citizens to criticize a particular neighboring country. But think over it through a global perspective. Think over it through an humanitarian perspective. If a particular country which stands as enemy to a particular country, in this example, in this paradigm, the country of North Korea, which does not have closer ties with the country of us, with the country of South Korea, and when continuous human rights violations and continuous restrictions are put upon the freedom or the fundamental rights of the citizens of North Korea, how can not one particular citizen comment or criticize that those unreasonable restrictions which are creating a lot of human suffering, a lot of human violence in that particular country? May it be any citizen belonging in any country, may it be the citizen belonging in the Republic of India, the country of Netherlands, even in the country of South Korea, Brazil, Argentina, etc. Each and every citizen is entitled to criticize the fundamental rights violations which is happening in another country, and that is also a part of what should be constituted as a freedom of speech and expression.
Sir, point to follow. Need to follow.
Well, the answer was quite satisfactory. I don't grant it.
Okay, sir.
Further, we have the delegate of Nepal. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. So, Royal COP of February 2005, Nepal's security situations has precautionally demonstrated with the violation human rights abuse have continued to ensure the contact between and international human rights law by the both sides. And also, Nepalians have faced so much by the security of force often acts with implementing and bonds of the research of the civilized control over sites, and they
Delegate, sorry to interrupt. But is it
committed
just me, or is everyone
violations of
facing internet
international
issues?
human
It's breaking for
Yeah,
everyone.
sir. From your sometimes the
Yes.
video is glitching. Yeah, sir.
Delegate, can you ensure, you are clearly audible to us. Can you please turn off your video for a better internet connection or try moving to a different place?
I'm sure I'll turn off my video. Is
Yeah,
it better now?
well, can you restart your speech once again?
Yeah,
Because we
sure,
couldn't
sir.
hear a lot of part.
Sure, sir. I can restart it. Just a minute. All right, I can start now.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, today I'm going to talk about the human rights in my country, Nepal. So the Royal Cup of February 2005, Nepal security situations has been promoted to while human right abuse have continues to insulate the conflicts between the royal government and the Mosques has been marked by the violations of the international human rights by both of the laws and the sides. Well, in that case, the Nepalians have faced so many situations. Like for this consider incident that this, security forces often acts with the implement and the beyond the research of the civilians control over the host sites, committing violations of international human rights law including extrajudicial killing, disappearance, and torture, and arrested, and overall. But as the Nepal's rule of law and human rights challenges and exclamated ways forwarding the for the peace, convicted as expon pawns on July 11, 2005. The USIPs beyond preparing by the Christian fairs and then the leaders in it of the peace and provide this summary of the issues. Due to this, that the Nepal's development has been increased since day by day in the motions of it from the human right abuse from the earlier incidents. I would like to end my statement here.
Points noted, delegate. Would you like to entertain questions?
Um, uh, no, sir, I will not.
Okay. Further, we move towards the delegate of Libya. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yes, honored committee and delegates, free speech in Libya has been transformed in a relatively short period. Libyans face many challenges in order to get the freedom of speech and expression before they could find themselves in dangerous situation if they speak their minds, and also most of them were not given the right to speak. The major challenge was freedom of expression in the constitution and protecting the rights of media laws as well as respecting the rights of the journalists. It faces the challenge of reforming outdated and repressive legislation and writing new laws that guarantee the full panoply of citizens' rights. Finally, after all these issues, the Parliament approved the Constitution of 2017. This Constitution contains two main aims. First, the Constitution indicates freedom of expression and freedom of publication by journalists, but under necessary measures to protect private life and prohibit incitement to hatred and violence. Second, the Constitution provides for the right to information and transparency, shall ensure the freedom of receiving, funding, exchanging, and examining information from multiple sources. The UN Human Rights Council extends the mandate of the fact-finding mission to investigate crimes under international laws committed in Libya since 2016. Great Green Charter of Fundamental Rights was enacted. The said charter called for the right to life, personal liberty, and security of individual. On the international level, Libya is a signatory to the majority of international treaties and conventions on human rights. legislature, after wide consultation, highlights the main areas of legislative reform and changes to specific laws needed to bring Libya into compliance with international norms. Same time, Libya has international human rights obligation that is bound to be respected. Thank you.
Points noted. Delegate, would you like to entertain questions? Delegate of Libya, would you like to entertain questions? Mr. Delegate, not audible to me or to everyone else? No. So further, we move towards the delegate of India. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Regarding the speech which every other delegate has spoken about, it has been understood that some amount of restriction is necessary to uphold the right to speech and expression. A very simple example of a woodcutter. If we just give an axe to a woodcutter to cut a single tree, and if there is no restriction on him, he would cut the whole forest. In a similar forum, if we have no restriction on the speech of a person or a speech of a individual, then he could disturb the whole public matter of the country. Moreover, during this online platform, it is made harder for people to share it has been easier for people to share the misinformation, like what different social media platforms did with leaders of few nations by arbitrarily disenabling their account, covering tweets with labels, and only letting people share them what added their own context. Moreover, in most of the often women and minorities who are targeted online. So countries must employ sufficient moderators to make their platforms a space to share ideas, but not to abuse. Absolute freedom of speech regularly endorsed by intellectuals may work in a university seminar, but in the real world, inequalities and dehumanities which harms is less powerful. Moreover, India is a signatory and had made series of substantive contributions to numerous articles that made up the UDHR. And similar is Article 19, which even talks in UDHR about the right to speech and expression. So there is no doubt or question that how religiously India follows its laws and maintains a humanitarian ground all over the world. Moreover, we are one of the few nations who have come with the proper laws regulating the social media, online platforms, OTT platforms, and other online news websites under IT Act 2021. In addition, the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993 have regulated, which is given us with National and State Human Rights Commission, and plus India has also ratified and signed international declaration, conventions, and treaties such as UDHR, ICCPR, ICESR, International Convent for Elimination All Types of Discrimination, that is ICERT, CEDAW, and many other forums which is necessary to maintain the fundamental right, that is right to speech and expression.
Thank you. Would you like to entertain any questions?
Yes, sir.
All those wishing to ask Delegate of India questions, please raise your hands. Netherlands and USA in that order. Go ahead.
So, sir, I would like to ask you a question that according to sedition law in India, any citizen, if they show their disagreement or disaffection towards the government established by law in India, they shall be punished with imprisonment and along with fine, and it is a non-bailable offense, and the person who is charged under this section will be barred from Indian government jobs. So don't you think that it is an infringement of citizens' right to freedom of expression?
Delegate, there's one point missing: if it incites violence. Moreover, in consideration to all the aspects which you said about, there is the proper judiciary is set up to consider what exactly is called as sedition and what exactly is the fundamental right to speech and expression. And if it comes under sedition, then proper steps has been taken just to ensure the public matter, the security, and the integrity of the nation is enabled.
Do you need a follow-up?
Yes, but sir,
start asking for it. As soon as he finishes his answer, you're supposed to say, please to follow up.
Sorry, sir. Please to follow up.
You are delegating or I am delegating? And ask for it. Next time I will not give it only. Question अच्छा है इसके लिए मैं बोलता हूँ that you know, do you need a follow up? Then ask for it, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sorry, sir.
Yeah.
But sir, the section 124A of IPC, it clearly mentions that if any citizen by spoken or written, if it shows or attempts to show any disaffection towards the government established by law, they shall be punished and punished by imprisonment and everything. So when the section itself clearly speaks about it, so what how can you say they like sedition hai ya nahi, is there or not, like when this section is itself clearly saying about the facts?
Delegate, if you went over the amendment which has been taken about decades ago and still prevalent, that it shows that it creates disturbance, if it incites violence, if it creates disorder, then it might be considered. It might be considered as sedition, and it is not sedition because proper investigation and thorough research has been done by the judiciary, by the officials, by the authorities to consider to a judgment that it is sedition.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Delegate of India, as India concluded in its statements that it allows freedom of speech and expression to the citizens, then why girls in Karnataka are still deprived of human rights and their free expression to their belief and modesty? But the Supreme Court of India for denying their rights of expression to wear hijab with the school uniform. Is free expression no longer valid as freedom to live a life with modesty and dignity is given under Article 21 of India? Can India justify their doings?
Delegating consideration to the freedom of speech and expression in points of hijab, I believe it comes under the religious aspects of it. Moreover, in consideration to speech and expression, the Supreme Court judgment clearly states about how and why hijab, like how and why wearing of hijab is not like why, and coming to judgment with the complete aspects of it, and just to reinstate the points and refer to the Supreme Court judgment, it states that if a particular religion follows a hijab thing, if a particular religion come up with the orange color, saffron, or and this will, it is a school, it is a place where students come to study, students comes to learn, to interact, and not to show their religious identity. The school follows a particular type of uniform so there should be equality maintained between the students.
Need to follow up?
Yes, granted.
Well, very well stated by Delegate of India. But my question is, the right to life of modesty and dignity okay, fine. Students are not allowed to show their religious symbol, but are they not even allowed to life of modesty and dignity under Article 21? Because it comes in the right to life. So I think the basic right, humanitarian rights, should be granted.
Basic right, that is humanitarian right, is perfectly granted under Article 21 to each and every citizen of India. And in consideration to hijab, the point which is taken up, it states that only in the school premises it's not enabled for students to wear hijab, as it can create religious disaffection between the students. As a school is a place where they come to learn, to study, and not fight among the religion.
Thank you.
I hope you are satisfied.
Yeah, moving on to the last speaker, Republic of Korea.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I would like to point out that the timer has not started yet.
Gaurav? Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to point out that various kinds of that even in the various speeches which have been made, a rare few times or almost negligible times, a certain attention or direction has been granted towards this topic. And I would like to point out your attention towards this topic itself. Honorable Chairperson, if we look at the if we look at the World Press Freedom Index of South Korea, South Korea stands at 42. And then if you look at the Human Development Index, it stands at 23 out of 189 countries. In the Corruption Perception Index, it stands at 32 out of 180 countries. As well as in the Global Innovation Index, it stands at ranking number 5, which is not the number 1 in the whole continent of Asia. So, Honorable Chairperson, what trend do we observe here? We observe this trend that one factor of press freedom can affect all other factors as well, and all of these are interrelated. But at the pinnacle stands the freedom of speech and expression. If the freedom of speech and expression is curbed in any country, then that has direct repercussions over the corruption in that particular country. It leads to direct proliferation of corruption. It leads to direct harm on the innovation in that particular country, as well as it leads to serious degradation of the human development index of that particular country. So there is this. So here we can observe that all of these things are interrelated. And even if we even if we ignore the example of South Korea, if we take an example of any other country which is lower in rankings, we can observe that lower rankings are observed all over the major indexes which are developed by, or which are calculated by different organizations present in different organizations all over the globe. Hence, it is seriously important that we tackle each of these issues, even if it to individually to reach to a scenario where the rankings or where individual development would take place in all of these factors in a particular country. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to entertain any questions?
Yes, sir.
All those wishing to ask questions, please raise your hand. Any other delegate? Questions? Okay, India and Netherlands.
Delegate of South Korea, the government has come up with an amendment bill on the press arbitration law, which has very vague wording stated to it what is exactly fake news by the media organization, and is heavily criticized by the citizens of the country all over the nation. So how you justify that you maintain a proper forum for definition of fake news and definition of how you secure the right to speech and expression of different individuals?
Thank you, Delegate. Yes, I do agree that there have been certain repercussions of the newly proposed bill, and I would like to assure you and the rest of the delegates that the government of South Korea is continuously deliberating and discussing over the received repercussions, over the received advices, the feedbacks and criticism, and it would like to assure all of the delegates present here that as has the tradition been, the country of South Korea would come to a conclusion, would make the necessary changes and would come to a conclusion which suits the growth of the human development in our country, and which promotes the facilitation of the freedom of speech and expression in our country. And to end, I would just like to state that we do not need to justify our policies, our freedom of speech and expressions due to the omnipresent and positive global rankings which we receive from different indexes. But yes, delegate, surely some parts which are facing some kinds of repercussions, they would be discussed and deliberated, and the necessary changes would be made in it. I assure you for it.
Yep, next question. Thank you.
Sir, what measures does the South Korean government take for the foreign citizens residing in South Korea to allow them to exercise their freedom of speech and expression freely?
Yes, thank you, Delegate. Delegate, as the history or the tradition of the country of South Korea has been, and this has also been observed all over the world, that the foreign citizens honestly speaking, the foreign citizens are put a bit under more scrutiny as compared to the normal residents of their country. And this is a trend not just in the country of South Korea, whether you observe any other country. Of course, the foreign citizens are allowed to express their freedom of speech and expression, but there has to be a certain more amount of reasonable restrictions on them, because this aspect of alienation and foreign origin of course comes into play when we have to look into the laws of each and every country all over the globe. Of course, the foreign citizens are allowed to express their views and opinions. The foreign media is highly encouraged in the country of South Korea, and that the encouragement and the transparency awarded to the foreign media is also one of the factors counted in the World Press Freedom Index. Also, and I would just like to tell you that of course those foreign citizens are allowed to exercise their right, but a certain more amount of reasonable restrictions in the form and a certain more amount of interpretations are stressed upon when they make any statements which can affect the security of the country, and which can lead to some kind of misinterpretation and unreasonable statements towards the government of South Korea as well as towards the judiciary of South Korea. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So with that, we are done with this moderated session. We're 16 speakers. UAE, you can't ask the question because 2 members have already been recognized. I hope you understand. We have to stick to it. Is it an important question?
Not really.
Yeah. Type it on the chat box. We'll make South Korea answer it on the chat box. Everyone. Yeah. So with that, now we have almost last 1 hour left, right? We have few options in front of us. One is go ahead with another moderated session. Second is go ahead with closing statements. A third is I can give you, I can expose you to some sort of paperwork which will not include any voting, which will include collaborative work and effort, because hearing speeches all over and again it's slightly becoming repetitive now. So what I'll do is I'll give you guys 2 minutes to discuss amongst yourself. We can have one more moderate session, or we can have closing statements, or we can just have one basic form of paperwork, like so that all of you can put in your ideas and thoughts and solutions on paper also. So you take 2 to 3 minutes, have a discussion here only, and let us know.
So, hello everyone. What exactly you support on? Including speech, moderated session, or paperwork?
I think we should. I think we should have one round of closing statements of 1 minute or 1.5 minutes, and then we can conclude with our material.
Yeah, same here.
And that will be repetitive on all.
For a less amount of time, I guess.
It does not have to be repetitive. You can.
Almost all the points have been covered, so we will just explain or just we will speak again. The same thing has happened.
I can give you one. See that's the reason. Okay, Republic of India. You get my point now. That's the reason I was saying that it is important to merge the 2 agendas and not have them as different, because we would have been in more conundrum if we would have had that 2 separate agendas. But of course, see, I think that some of the research, what normally happens in Indians is that in the end we always feel guilty that some of the research which we had prepared had to be laid out in front of the chairs or the vice chair or the EP. And I think that in the closing statements of 1 minute or 1.5 minutes without questions, okay, the closing statement we should propose it to be without questions. If we have that, then I think we can express our material fully.
We can talk about a completely different a thing which is not much related to the agenda. As in, we can discuss about how we can reduce the crime rate, strategies for that.
That has been discussed. Strategies to reduce the custodial violence.
That was for custodial violence. Now I'm talking about crime rates, which includes like murder.
But we have to stick to the main agenda.
A main agenda is not about murder or other crimes. It's just custodial violence. Okay, then who all support for paperwork? Just raise your hand. Am I the only one? Concluding speech.
I think we
Yes,
should do
okay.
paperwork because it will help us to learn something new as we have covered most of the
You
topics.
didn't raise your hand, UK.
Learn something new, right?
Somalia. Again, who all are in for paperwork? Just raise your hand. 5, 6, 7, 9, 11, 10, 11 people. So it passes now.
Let's have the
10.
voting for closing statements as well.
I am okay for both of them, so I don't really mind.
Then you don't vote on it.
Guys, the paperwork we have 50 minutes. So paperwork maybe we can only put forward solutions, okay? And solutions, only those solutions which have been discussed up till now. You cannot bring forward any new solutions into the paperwork. Only the solutions which you have made during your individual speech, not any more solutions. So think properly for your vote. That is the
I
thing.
can suggest.
Achha, let me just note on that. This paperwork could be individual work or a group work or a pair work.
We can have it in both ways. We can have it in both ways. We can draft
Because if we go for individual work, then it will like बहुत लंबा हो जाएगा.
So said that there would be no more voting if the draft resolution is passed. That means only one person will be making the whole draft resolution by taking consideration of each delegate. So I think there will be sponsors, co-sponsors, and signatories. So I need. So you told, right?
Draft I said we will have paperwork which will not include voting.
Yeah,
And
so it means
one person will have to make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought we are not voting, so only one person can make it.
No.
Okay,
Guys, I am all in for having a 1 minute or 1.5 minutes concluding statement. So yeah, should the Republic of India, if you're saying anything, you can, or otherwise we will vote for concluding statements.
That was what I'm saying. Like just raise your hands who all are in for concluding statements.
Can I vote again?
Yeah, you can.
Choose one thing. Yeah. 10. This is also 10. But over here, UAE voted twice.
Guys, please vote. Not abstain.
My vote from that paperwork. I vote here.
Who is not voting?
You voted for paperwork. You have
Nepal,
done.
Argentina, Libya, Nepal.
France. So are you guys against or what? Because at least vote in the against vote. Okay.
It's the last thing. Moderated caucus.
Yeah, too much time for discussion. Put your hands down.
Would require too much time.
Put your hands down, guys. I'll tell you what to do. If the committee can't decide, I'll tell you. So as we have many school students over here, I'm hoping everyone has a Gmail account, right?
Yes.
So like UAE, and I think there are a few other people from school. Russia.
Yes.
You guys have a Gmail account, right?
Yes.
So what we are going to do is we are going to have a committee report which only includes solutions. So you start with the heading, the committee's full name, United Nations Human Rights Council, then the agenda, and then you have pointers. So 1, name of country, let's say Mexico, then Mexico's solution, 2, Russia's solution, 3, Libya's solution. Not more than 5 to 7 points per delegate. This is something which I'm mentioning in advance. Now, simple thing, right? After your every solution gets over, wait, let me just use the whiteboard. Whiteboard hai kya yahan pe? Yeah. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can see.
So let's say something is written, right? So let's India, and let's say India's point. This is the first point which India is writing, right? Let's say he only writes A, then he uses this colon, and then he goes on to his next point. But when his last point comes, he puts a full stop over here. So full stop A के बाद B के बाद नहीं डालोगे, like last point पे full stop डालोगे. The report has to start with the full form of the committee and the agenda. And above this, you can write committee report, XYZ. You can name it whatever you want to, just not nothing obscene or controversial. So what I mean is that, so after India is done, so maximum 5 to 7 solutions. Okay. After India, then second can be over here, USA, and USA will then write her. So she make a Google Doc and everyone can simultaneously work on it. You have time till 4:20 to send it to me. If I don't get it by 4:20, I don't accept anyone's working paper. If I receive a committee report, if I receive the committee report, we'll have additional, marking component for it too. So yeah, go ahead. And it is not compulsory for everyone to make the working committee report. All those who are interested can make it, but I would appreciate if you make it, as it will help you learn something new. Yes, Honduras, you have your hand raised. Honduras, USA.
So while making the report, do we need to write solutions? We need to ask the delegates for the solution, or
You write your solutions. Now you are writing USA's part.
Yeah, my solutions, but for the other countries which are writing the solutions, we
write-
just need to just mail you separately as solutions.
Document.
You will combine
one
it.
document.
One document.
Committee report, the name, UNHRC, agenda, 1 USA, 5 to 7 solutions, uske niche 2 South Korea, 5 to 7 solutions, 3 Luxembourg. So all those who are interested, who will compile it, send me one document PDF. After USA's first solution, there will be no full stop or comma. There will be the colon. And after your last solution, there will be a full stop. Yes, India.
What I get, can anyone of us make a Google Doc and make it public and then later share you by email?
So that you do whatever you want to do with your Google Doc. Just compile everything quickly. So have a discussion. All those who want to send make this committee report, more the better, because there will be a grading component for this also, and start working on it. You have time till 4:20, maximum 4:30. Yes, UAE.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yes.
Can one person make the document and rest of us put the solutions in the chat box so they can put our agenda?
Yes, even that is fine. Now, let's say if South Korea is making the document, you put your solutions, he just has to copy paste them. But when you put your solutions, you format them properly with the colon and the full stop in the last point. That delegate of South Korea won't do for you. He can just copy paste and align them maximum, nothing else. So yeah, guys, start working.
Yeah.
After this thing, only one thing that will be in order will be the motion to adjourn after your committee report comes to me. So you have to decide the committee report name, and you have to decide who all are willing to give the solutions. And remember, minimum 5, maximum 7. Don't even go to 7, because it's a headache for you guys also. Even if there are less, even if there are 2, 3, but good solutions, which take into consideration previous resolutions, previous laws, future considerations, will be appreciated. While you're writing these solutions, take into consideration your foreign policy, your allies, which treaties, which conventions you have signed, ratified, your national situation. Take into consideration everything. Don't randomly just do it, like many of us have been giving speeches over here. Yes, UAE.
Point of parliamentary inquiry, the subtopics, if we include it with the subtopics of the moderated session, so can it be different, or all have to do it with the same agenda?
Agenda is one, UAE. Your solutions have to be for the agenda that you have discussed here. Even if you have partially discussed them here, you can bring in some things which you have read and combine them and put them also. Yes, Honduras does not seem to have a doubt. So you guys start discussing. You have time till 4:20.
Okay. So do we have to mention the agenda also in the committee paper?
After UNHRC's full name, the agenda will be there.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Drishik and Leah, you're here, right? all sheets are done, right? Like completely ready.
Yes.
So I'll get to the scoring. We'll be here only in case you have any doubts. You can ask us. You guys have around 30 minutes. So get started working quickly.
Guys, please, you all can send whatever solutions which you have made on the WhatsApp group in a Google Doc or in a Word doc or something. I will literally just copy paste that on the Google Doc sheet. Sir, is there a specific format? I'm following Times New Roman font 12.
12 and spacing 1.5 is fine.
Achha.
Alignment justified, not left, right, center. Justified.
Times New Roman is the font.
Yes.
Should we talk about the fourth agenda of the moderated session?
We need to adapt.
You have to mail it, right?
Can we talk about the fourth moderated session agenda?
UAE, just a minute. No. You don't mail it to me. Just send it on the WhatsApp group along tagging your country's name. I will copy paste that into Google Doc and I will mail it to Ishan sir. Yes. And also UAE, we do not have any more time to discuss moderated caucus agendas. So we are not discussing any moderated caucus agendas.
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm just asking, out of all the moderated sessions which we did, should we make our report on the fourth moderated sessions agenda?
Because it's up to you. Whatever solutions you want to provide to the committee, can give it. It is your individual concern. It is your individual opinion, perspective.
All right. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
We have to send the Google Doc in the WhatsApp group, right?
Yeah, your individual solutions ka Google Doc, yeah, Word doc, anything. Or even if you send a WhatsApp text, it would be okay. But I think वो grammatically correct होना चाहिए. सारे सब clauses और उसके साथ.
Delegate of Republic of Korea, will it be okay if we text it to you and through WhatsApp?
No problem, but just ensure ensure that it is in a proper format.
Sure, thanks.
South Korea, the Google Doc which you will compile all the information. Please share access with me, Drishik and Leah. Drishik, you can give him our email IDs.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
On the top, before writing the solutions, we have to write delegate of India delegate of United Kingdom or just United Kingdom.
Write United Kingdom or your country's full name. Then you come down and sub points, you add your first point, add the colon, second point, add the colon, whichever is your last point, then you add the full stop. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Republic of Korea, I hope you have received the mail IDs.
Yes, sir, I have. Once I edit the documents, I will share the access with you all. Or do you want me to share with it right now?
No, after you're comfortable and you're finished.
Okay, thank you.
After the putting the letter A, do we have to use a colon or
No, you don't have to put the letter A. The letter A was just for an example. Your name, after your name, like a dot or a dash, which is for a sub point, and just type your solution and then put a colon. Then type second solution, again put a colon, and then in last solution, put a full stop.
Sir, the solutions do not have to be numbered?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could you please repeat what you just said?
I said there is no need to do A, B, C, D or 1, 2, 3, 4 in the solutions. Like now, can someone share?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Google Doc खोल के screen share करो. I'll show you what I mean. Can someone share their screen?
Yes, sir. So host has disabled screen share.
1 second. What I mean is, if you type USA over here, right? USA can come down and just do this and type
Bullet points.
and
Okay,
type,
sir.
type the first solution, whatever it is, colon, and let's say she only has 2 solutions, full stop, and she's done then.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Delegate of South Korea, could you just check if my format is correct or no? I've sent it to you on personal.
If any delegate wants us to check the format, you can share it with Drishik and Leah. Drishik and Leah, you guys have understood the format, right?
Yes, sir.
So send it to Drishik or Leah. They will cross-check it for you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Welcome. You can send it on WhatsApp, personal chat, or your private chat, whatever. Drishik, Leah, correct their mistakes and send it back.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Drishik, sir, I sent it to you on personal chat.
Yes, I would be checking it right now. Just give me a moment.
पाप लागतो आतू 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 पाप लागतं माहितीये